Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy Bass the Kid. Now, this is an extra episode for this week purely because there is no breakdown. There was nothing really to talk about over the weekend, so I figured I'd use this to my advantage, get out another video, especially as last week's content maybe, was a little bit of a downturn from what I've been doing as of late. Again, please like and subscribe. I'm nearly at the 100th episode. I mean, I never thought I'd get this far, to be honest, but hey, we're here. So with that being said, there's one or two things I'd like to talk about, I'd like to address, so let's get into it. So last night, I was on Monday Night Smoke. I was having a chat regarding the Denzel Bentley and Janibek Alim Konuli fight for the WBO title, which is taking place I think on the 12th of November or the 26th, one of the two. So I was giving my concerns about how I think this situation has come about, and then I ended up having a very one-sided yet interesting conversation with Denzel, who KG decided to call halfway through I was saying what I was saying, and we was having a little back and forth. First things first, I want to make it very clear that the energy Denzel is exhibiting is the correct energy for this, because whether I believe he can win or he can't win, or everyone else believes he's going to get smashed, or people are willing him on to do great and they're backing him or whatever, that's totally the way he needs to be thinking. Screw everyone, I'm going to prove you all wrong, I'm going to do this thing, you're going to believe, and the new. I love the energy, but ultimately energy don't win fights. And my biggest concern was, from what I've seen, looking at his entire record, there's nothing but British level opponents on there. He's currently the British middleweight champion. Now that to me says I see a pattern, right? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but apart from Anthony Joshua, when was the last time the British champ won the world championship? Answers down below, because I genuinely don't remember it happening. Callum Johnson, British champ, vacated to fight Artur Beterbiev, got knocked out in 4 or 5 rounds. Craig Richards, British champ, gave a really good account of himself, ultimately got beat by Dimitri Bivol. Technically Anthony Yarde didn't even get the British title, but British level opponents, gets knocked out by a jab by Sergey Kovalev. I'm sure there's more. So my whole thing was, if you're not the number one guy in that pecking order for your promotion, then okay, fair enough. You take the paycheck, you do your best, you swing, you shoot for the stars, and hopefully you reach the moon. I get that. But all I said, and I'm going to continue to say, is I think that Denzel has got a bright future. I think that he could be something incredibly special, but there's been certain building blocks that ain't been reached yet. They haven't been put on that foundation on the house. It's like you're looking at the loft conversion before you've even ground out the rooms on the ground floor. Right now there's a shell of a house that's being built. The bricks ain't even been laid properly yet. There's just a structural foundation and some supports so that it doesn't slide. That's how it looks. There's been no European step-ups yet. There's been no tough former world champions just to understand exactly where you are in the pecking order. Beating Marcus Morrison just because I'm the only person that's ever stopped him at middleweight. Like, yeah, okay, cool, that's a good achievement, but like, the guy's a bit worn in now. So if that's the reason why a title shot is then justified, I don't know. All I'm saying is, I want all the words I'm saying right now to come back and be like, yeah, like you didn't know what you was talking about. I'm calm with that, because I'm happy to see another brother do well, but I don't want man just thrown into a situation just because, oh, if I don't take this opportunity, I might not get one again for 5 years. But if you're being built correctly and your team is supposed to be backing you correctly, your promoter is supposed to be on your side, like, you will get the title shot again in a year and a half, 2 years, with some solid, good level wins at different levels to just British. And that was pretty much all I wanted to say about it. That's what I was trying to say yesterday. I think it's the wrong time. Personally, I think Alim Kanuli's gonna spin him. That's not what I want to see. That's what I think is gonna happen. Like brethren bias and recency bias and all that stuff, I don't really do it. Like, I look at things as I see them, and I look at track records. I mean, Alim Kanuli, from what I remember, about 300 amateur fights, and of those 300, I think he lost about 6. So regardless of only having being 12-0 with 8 KOs, now being elevated to WBO champion because the original guy didn't want to fight, all of that, there's just a wealth of experience there, and he's not that much older than Denzel. He's 2 years older than Denzel Bentley. So it's not even like, oh, he's this old 32, 33-year-old shop-worn guy that maybe you can just catch on the right moment. Like, the guy's still fresh. So look, the fight's signed, so nothing's gonna change now. I'm hoping everything I've said ends up aging like milk from the microwave, and I'm gonna be hoping for the best, rooting for the best, but I know what my prediction is gonna be when that comes around. But yeah, shout out to Denzel anyway, because you know what, he didn't have to take it, but he did. So big respect for that. If reports are to be believed, JoeCordina has now been stripped of his IBF, super featherweight championship. Now this one was really surprising to me, because he was supposed to be fighting Rakhimov on the 5th of November in Abu Dhabi on the Bivol and Ramirez undercard. But it seems that he's got a hand injury that requires surgery, and I think he was supposed to fight Rakhimov between, I think, by January or something like that. But according to physicians, the hand and everything, the surgery won't be healed. He won't be able to compete until like March. But they've stripped him of the title, and I think Rakhimov and Zelfa Barrett will be the next fight down the line. I think Zelfa was second in line for the belt. Now, this to me, I feel like that's a bitter blow for JoeCordina. Just won the belt and then sort of gets stripped immediately because he hasn't been able to satisfy the mandatory within the regulated time. But when I look at it, I'm like, hold on a minute. So JoeCordina's just won this belt, gets a mandatory pushed on him straight away with the IBF, and we know, generally speaking, they don't play. He's injured, so it's not like, oh, well, give him an extension and allow him to push it back. It doesn't even look like he's been made champion in recess. He's just been stripped of the belt, and a vacant belt is going to be fought for next. But when was the last time Errol Spence Jr. satisfied a mandatory for the IBF? If I'm correct, he hasn't fought an IBF eliminator. I mean, he hasn't fought an IBF mandatory since 2018. The start of 2018, if I'm correct. So Errol Spence Jr. can get injured and be given an exemption, and then be given exemption after exemption for comeback fights, and a couple of unifications as well within that, within the whole scope of things. But JoeCordina can't be given 6 months. When's the last time Jamel Charlo satisfy the mandatory for the IBF? I'm drawing a blank. I don't think he ever has. But yet Josh Warrington has to fight Alberto Lopez in December, who is his IBF mandatory challenger. When you look at this, am I the only one seeing a pattern here? Why is it that it seems to be matchroom fighters that are being forced to always, you know, do their mandatories for the IBF, or any organization not named the PBC? Because who's got the super bantamweight IBF? Is that AJ Murtazaliev? I mean AJ Akhmadaliev, or is it Stephen Fulton? I think it's Akhmadaliev's got the IBF, but I can't remember any. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check. But yeah, look, ultimately, I'm a bit, you know, I feel a bit down for JoeCordina. Obviously, he did well to gain that belt, and it looks like now he's gonna have to try and win it again after his injury. So I feel bad for him in that sense. But I'm just like, why is it that the IBF seem to be so strict when it comes to these matchroom guys, but these PBC men that have belts ain't fought mandatories in God knows how long? Can't just be me that's thinking that. But you know what? Yeah, I ain't really got too much more to speak about on that. But yeah, I feel bad for Cordina, but that's something like I think we need to check, because that can't be right personally. And last but not least, it's fight week. So that means that we can't not talk about ChrisEubank Sr. Now, I didn't watch the whole podcast. I saw a piece of it from The Fight Is Right with Tunde Ajayi and Spencer Fearon. Shout out. But apparently Christopher Livingston Eubank Sr. sent in a letter to The Fight Is Right. Not a text, not an email, an actual handwritten letter. I mean, gotta respect the old school way of doing things. But he's called for them to boycott the fight, and he's called for the fight to be boycotted. He's not happy again with this rehydration clause with the catch weight. Now, I feel for him in some ways. I personally think a lot of this is just because he's not head honcho of the show. Like, he wants a controlling say in kind of what's gone on. He's not being given that, hence why he's now being very sort of stubborn, and just because he views certain things as in not in his son's favor. And as a father, I'm sure that you would always want your children's best interests and best, best possible conditions in heart for everything that they're doing. So maybe he feels like that, as much as his son might be able to make that weight, he knows what it's like to make weight. He knows how much of a toll it can take on your body, especially coming towards those later years in life. He was already retired at this point in his career. Like, Chris is now technically, a year after him as a fighter. So I can kind of see all of that. But again, a lot of it looks like I should be a part of this. You're not allowing me to be a part of this. This can't go ahead without me, kind of thing. I don't know if that's the case, because by all sides that I can kind of see, it looks as if this fight's real, this fight's happening, and there's a lot of different media that's covering it. Good Morning Britain, BBC. You've got the Virgin subscribers now via their TiVo boxes are able to purchase this as a pay-per-view. The DAZN subscribers, and obviously whoever else wants to sign up to DAZN. It looks like it's all systems go. There was confirmation the other day, which I told people from a while ago, that the rehydration clause is basically, it's between £9 and £10. Yeah, everyone was talking, oh, it's only £5. This, I always told everyone, when he says it's within the IBF limit, the new limit was raised to £12. So the most it would have been 11. but it looks like it's been it's been settled. It was about £9 to £10 that he's allowed to come in for the second day weigh-ins, before obviously being able to eat and drink whatever else you want to be able to eat and drink for the rest of the day. It's still not great. You know, the IBF rehydration clause, naturally, I feel like it initially was a good thing, just because ultimately it meant that if you're not really supposed to be campaigning at that weight, you shouldn't be, because if you hydrate more than £10 the day after, then that's probably not the weight. You shouldn't be crashing your body down to make that weight in the first place. And you know, the higher up in weight you are, the less you're going to rehydrate. Therefore, you're going to be more at your natural competitive weight and whatnot. To me, it made sense, but it doesn't seem like a lot of people are really, you know, a lot of people have probably done themselves damage just trying to still make a weight, just because they know that they can, you know, hydrate up and become this, you know, this huge massive guy on the night of the fight and whatnot. But yeah, ultimately, let me get back to the main point there. I do feel for Senior to a degree, but ultimately fight's happening and there's not anything you can do, so you might as well just, you know, get on board now and just make sure that, you know, Chris comes in and does the business. Because ultimately, if the weight is an issue as well, and he's, you know, he's still having his cheat days and everything like that, rather than, you know, gradually bringing his weight down, you know, slowly bit by bit, and rather than going to crash it in the last couple of days, if anything does happen, you might have to say, well, that's his fault and not the fault of the actual clause in the contract, because no one told you to be, you know, eating chicken cake and all that stuff, when you could have just been, you know, keeping focus. Again, bring your weight down a couple pounds at a time, week by week, and do it safely, rather than having to crash the last few pounds and then not being able to put anything on. Who knows? But yeah, if anything were to happen, I think you might have to look at the actions of Junior rather than the, you know, sort of the outcry of Senior on this occasion. But yeah, it's gonna happen. It is what it is. Nothing more to say about it. So I'm looking forward to it. And yeah, look, for now, I'm gonna leave that one there. Look out, there will be something else popping up tomorrow. Not quite sure what it's going to be in terms of content, but there definitely will be another video. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and share with everyone who is relevant to the space, or anyone you think would find it interesting. And I appreciate the views so far. Hardcore Casual out.